36 amazing professionals, ranging from project managers to design consultants, migration engineers, trainers, sales consultants, customer relation managers, all working with document management solutions for our clients. And this year has been a very busy year for us. Our team has averaged 2 to 3 document management deployments, that's go lives for our clients per week. So count that, that's over 100 law offices and organizations that we've helped deploy document management solutions for in this year alone. And interestingly, around about 63–64% of those were looking for cloud-based document management solutions only. So that's really what the focus of this webinar is. I chose the name of it because I was looking for a catchy name related to cloud, and I'm a big Rolling Stones fan, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to tie it all back to the Rolling Stones, but we'll certainly try. So I'm going to go ahead and pause my webcam here, and we'll kick over and talk about the subject matter for today, which is, hey, you get off of my cloud. So just a little Rolling Stones music in the background here, and a quick history lesson. Back in 1965, the Rolling Stones released their follow-up single to their smash hit Satisfaction. That follow-up single took 3 weeks to write and was, of course, Get Off of My Cloud. Primarily written by Keith Richards. This was written as a response to the pressures the band was dealing with in recording a follow-up single so quickly. So they banged out this tune in just 3 weeks. And both Mick and Keith talked about the fact that this was really about their way of saying, or dealing with the pressures from outside, finding a new way forward and living life on their terms. You know, they were young, disaffected, and they were disaffected by the system and with government trying to find a new way. So that's about as far as I can go to tie this to cloud, but we'll continue the history lesson and talk about 2020 and December 17th, in fact, 2020, where do we find ourselves related to cloud document management systems? So firms have obviously had a pretty tough year. Dispersed workplaces are everywhere. Remote users, people working from home, people working with all sorts of weird and wonderful devices. There was a laptop shortage earlier this year. You know, there were shipping issues coming in from China and Taiwan. So we've had a lot of clients that have been using everything from MacBooks to their kids' school computers to get their work done. So what we see there is the bring your own device technology being thrown into the fray of working in a modern law firm. With that has become the problem of dispersed data. Working from home or unsupervised, staff have been putting data into silos that's not particularly where it should be, or perhaps it's not somewhere where others can access. So we also saw a very, very huge spike in cloud adoption. And a lot of that was like people scrambling to find a single source or location where they could collaborate because their firm had not quite figured out remote access for everybody. You know, we had a lot of sites where maybe only 40% of the users had the ability to remote back in March of 2020, and they had to quickly ramp up to 100%. So cloud adoption was quick, was a big one, and then mobility. You know, not just working from home, but also being able to work from your iPad or from your phone. You know, the ability to leverage cloud technologies to get documents onto mobile devices. Security obviously played a massive part in this, you know, being able to control all those elements above and tie them into a policy that the firm could still point back to their clients and say, we have control of your data. And that's where cloud document management really sort of came to the fore. And we're at a point right now where there has never been as many decision points for law firms related to going to the cloud and what their strategies are for storing documents in the cloud. So I just want to just talk about why cloud again. You know, I know this is kind of something that I think Affinity put on something like 7 to 8 webinars this year alone, just on going to the cloud for document storage. But just to reiterate here, I mean, of course, there's a cost saving element here. TCO, or total cost of ownership of a on-site infrastructure can be pretty heavy. You know, when you have local on-site servers and workstations that your users are using for, you're responsible for obviously the purchase, setup, maintenance, software licenses, backup, power, cooling, the IT staff to support that, and the continuing education of those IT staff as technology evolves. So that's all responsibilities that you bear the brunt of when you're dealing with on-prem type solutions. And then, you know, obviously when you go to a cloud solution, you're outsourcing all of that. With cloud, you know, you're outsourcing your security. You know, and due diligence would have you working with a vendor that that has a team of security professionals that have your back, and they're all about planning for the security for your data in advance. They'll be working under the guidance of a chief security officer, and that's a luxury that most smaller SMB or law offices and law firms are not able to do in-house. So just on the right-hand side there, you see that there's a little graph here that I got from Microsoft. It'll be on the slide notes here. It's just a cost calculator that allows you to calculate the cost of ownership of an Azure-based or cloud infrastructure system compared to an on-prem system. And I think we all know that over time there's a huge cost saving there as well. The other side of cloud is obviously the scalability. You know, if you hire 5 more staff, you buy 5 more licenses and away you go. Whereas if you hire 5 more staff in a terrestrial on-site type environment, you've got 5 laptops that need to be set up or 5 workstations, and you know, on and on it goes. So cloud obviously gives you that ability to expand and contract, because that's been an important one that unfortunately has happened this year. Organizations have contracted in size, and with a cloud environment, you have that flexibility to really adjust and control costs and administration overhead related to that change in size. And then the other thing is, of course, the cloud gives you that anywhere, anytime type of access. You know, you can unshackle your workforce, work from anywhere, and I think we've all found that out this year. And then, you know, of course, the big one, and the one that everyone talked about in 2019 was more collaboration. And I've got that, interestingly, as the last item here. The collaboration advantage of being able to meet your clients in the cloud gives you a really easy on-ramp for collaboration. I think back to like 5 or 6 years ago when, you know, we would have clients try and VPN into terrestrial document management systems to access, and it was, you know, it was either that or you had to use third-party bolt-on solutions, some deal rooms and stuff, and it wasn't really the best solution. It wasn't an elegant solution. So, you know, cloud gives us a real collaborative advantage these days. And then tying back to why DMS, you know, we talked about why cloud, why DMS. You know, DMS gives us obviously visibility into our documents. You know, you're creating a single workspace or location for people to do all their work in. That workspace is typically customized the way that you work. You know, in a document management workspace, you typically have it broken down by filters of folders, and that represents the various elements of the case that make sense to you and others working on that case. So maybe you have a breakdown by pleadings or contracts or, you know, discovery. You know, there's like a filing system that sort of mimics a bit of a virtual Redwell. DMS gives us searchability, not just browsing into a workspace, but search across all my workspaces for content or metadata. You know, give me the ability to Boolean search my data. Create save searches. That's something that we've seen over and over. People really love the ability to create a search query and then bookmark it somewhere so they can get back to that search query. Maybe I always want to see the documents that are still waiting for my approval. So I would have a bookmark that looks for a save search that queries on that. Security, you know, document level, matter level, department level security. You know, the security in a document management system is not something that has to be administered by the IT director. You know, I could say that this given document only needs to be accessible to myself or, you know, 2 or 3 other people. I don't need to make an executive order to do that. I don't have to open a help desk ticket. Although on the other end of that, maybe there needs to be departmental level segregation of data, or certain matters are controlled by the administrative team so they're only accessible to certain people, ethical walls, if you will. I also throw into the security of a document management data loss prevention or leakage of data out of the system. That's a modern iteration that pure legal facing document management systems are built into their systems now, so that I can classify a document as being, say, a HIPAA compliant document. It contains some sort of health information about my client. Therefore, it can never be attached to an email or downloaded, or basically it can never exit the system. So we're sort of doing this proactive data loss prevention. Obviously, DMS provides versioning. Document management systems that, I've been working with document management now for 24 years. And I know there've been some of them have been around a lot longer than that. Versioning has always been a big part of document management system, evolving a document in collaboration with somebody, but still give me the ability to roll back to a previous version if need to. No surprises on that one. Collaboration, we talked about collaboration by meeting our clients in the cloud. It's never been more important. It's not like our clients are really eager to quickly get in their car and drive to our offices and sit in meeting rooms with us anymore. So, being able to get a portal to on-ramp our clients into working with us online has been important. And just collaborating even by providing the ability for clients to download data and maybe even putting watermarks on that data. Creating deal rooms or online collaboration portals to work with outside counsel. And then the other thing with collaboration that is important in a DMS is commenting. Most document management systems now, legal-facing document managements, have the ability to comment at either a document level or even now at a paragraph level. So we're starting to comment to our collaborative partners about content now, rather than the overall case, and logging that inside a communication window inside our document management. Document management, of course, brings us workflow. And perhaps a good example of that, again, is a challenge of 2020, electronic signatures. Again, kind of been hard trying to get people to come into my office to sign my my document here. So I'm now sending them a link to that document, and they're using such services as Write Signature or DocuSign, eSig, that sort of stuff to sign their documents. My document management system should be an integral part of that process. It shouldn't require me to check documents out into a signature process and then check them back in. That should be a seamless workflow. Let's make it easy. Life cycle in a document management system is everything from intaking a case, assigning that case, assigning the documents for review for that case, to closing the case. When the case closes, what do we do with the documents? How do we archive that data? What about if that data should be leveraged for library or knowledge-based purposes? How can we repurpose it into other areas and obviously take into account retention policies? How long will it be before we need to purge that data? So a DMS controls that. Compliance, of course. Meeting your security obligations and ensuring your staff follow those obligations is incredibly important. So, ensuring that your staff save into the document management means you have to create a document management system that your staff want to save in. You don't want to make it an extra hard process or convoluted or complex. So it has to be built around the way they work. And most of the modern iterations of document management systems have that customization level that we can really build them out for the way that you work. So cloud DMS systems, I'm trying to compress a pretty big topic and boil it down into some simple terms for digestion in just under 25 minutes here. So it's kind of tough, but I'm going to try and do it anyway. So I tend to think of cloud DMS as three types of cloud DMS. The first type is my simplistic understanding of file hosting. A file hosting service is something similar to, let's say, Dropbox or OneDrive, where I've got the ability to punch documents into a readily accessible online drive and structure that the way I need. That they're a fairly easy onboard process. Again, that's the one that we saw a huge uptick in this in 2020 as people scrambled to use online document storage. The second type of cloud document management system is the infrastructure as a service. Again, many people on this webinar are probably leveraging this right now, using a hosted server or desktop environment, which allows you to deliver a terrestrial on-prem type solution, but in a cloud experience. so that I might be using an older document management system like WorldDocs, or an on-prem SQL-based system like iManage. I want it delivered to me in the cloud. I'm using infrastructure as a service. Interestingly, here some of the vendors have not sort of cloudified their products, but more just changed their products to be delivered as infrastructure as a service. So we're now seeing vendors actually using infrastructure as a service as a delivery mechanism for their products, rather than changing it into the more traditional SaaS model. So SaaS, of course, is probably the one that most people are more familiar with, which is for cloud DMS is being delivered as a traditional software service. And that's typically what we've seen a huge growth at this year. I mentioned that we've had over 100 and something deployments of document management. 60% of them have been in SaaS document management solutions. So there are three sort of groupings from an IT boffin standpoint. I'm going to throw this one over here past, because I just know there'll probably be some people on this webinar that'll say, what about platform as a service? Well, now we're starting to really blur the lines of what a service is. So platform as a service is typically a bit like infrastructure as a service, but delivered in a sort of on-off as needed manner. Azure is a pretty good example of platform as assurance in service, where let's spin up a server because I need it for the next 5 minutes and then turn it off, or let's build a API integration and fire it off when needed, and a whole server just emerges, runs the process, and then closes down. So PaaS is out there as an option too. But I'll concentrate on these three main types. The file hosting services. Let me dig a little deeper into what we've seen people, the challenges, the pros and cons of using a file hosting service on as a cloud DMS. The pros, of course, for this is it's an easy on-ramp. I mentioned the fact that you install Dropbox or Google Docs or whatever, and you start to build your own system out. So it's nice and easy, a free-form structure that you can create your own sort of organization inside. There's low cost and high storage, no bones about it. Like, I can't believe how much terabytes of data you can get for your dollar now in these services. And a lot of these services come included. I think most people on this webinar are probably using Office 365. So, there's storage that comes included in that for OneDrive that you can leverage for your document cloud DM. The cons, of course, for this, is there can be version and synchronization challenges. Our help desk here at Affinity has filled a lot of OneDrive issues where people are syncing stuff across multiple users and collaborating a document, and they get out of sync or lose changes to documents. That's not an uncommon thing. Google search that on, and you'll see plenty of people complaining of those issues. Meta tagging can be a problem. If I want to make sure that my data has some sort of tag so I can locate it later, it might be a client name or a client number, or maybe my author name or something like that. Enforcing that type of regimented process has been challenging in these file hosting services, just because they're loosely sort of organized. They are, as I got down here in the other con, they're free-form structure, which was also one of the pros. It can be the Wild West. Users can duplicate or triplicate and go on and on, create all sorts of redundant data structures because there's no central coordination. So, Bob over in accounts could create a folder for the Smith case, and Betty over in the litigation team could create the same folder, and neither of them would know that would exist. And so you've got a siloing of information, which is kind of one of the worst problems to have with document management. So we tend to think as file hosting services very entry level. Infrastructure as a service. That's our other cloud DM solution. I've got in the middle of the screen here Azure, Proceros, Rackspace, Amazon Web Services, just to give you some ideas of these sort of vendors. Most often this is thought of as taking your entire on-prem services, servers and workstations, and putting them into a delivered cloud solution. I did mention that some software vendors are using infrastructure as a service to deliver their process, and they might say that they've got, say, iManage Cloud, but really at the back end of it, it is a infrastructure as a service. It's not a multi-tenant environment. So when we look at our pros here, You know, the pros here being, of course, that we can leverage existing on-prem document management systems. You know, if I'm already using eDocs or WellDocs or iManage on my local server environment, I need to get to the cloud. Boom, I can throw these up into my infrastructure as a service, and I'm pretty much where I was when I was on-prem, except everything's been delivered over a desktop. That keeps things like integrations between products all intact. Lateral integrations are not typically affected by this type of environment. You know, if I've got my accounting system hooked to iManage, that integration is going to continue to work in the infrastructure as a service environment. And then lastly, the hosted desktops. Let's stop beating around the bush here. You know, I talked about bring your own device technology being a hallmark of 2020. I'm not kidding when we've got people using very low-end e-machine type laptops to, you know, put together complex litigation documents because they borrowed it off their high school child because their own laptop wasn't working or they didn't have it handy. You know, hosted infrastructure, an infrastructure as a service there where I can deploy a desktop icon more or less down to any device means that I'm able to work outside that device's constraints. I'm now working inside my hosted desktop infrastructure, and it negates some of the local IT problems we've had with bring your own device technology. Cons, of course, for this, updates, upgrades, and preventative maintenance. They're still part of the terrestrial concept of information technology preventative maintenance plans. You know, I've got to reboot servers, I've got to upgrade my servers, I've got to run updates on iManage or WorldDocs. That still has to happen. So, you know, you're no better or worse off than you were before, but, you know, there is still an interruption of service that can be expected. The local environment integration is something that can be challenging. And I say that with perhaps an example here of, let's say I've got a pleading or something sitting on my desk right now, I want to scan it. How do I get that up into iManage with a local scanner? So it can be done, but it's a challenging process that needs to be figured out. And the third thing here is there's multiple layers of costs. You know, I'm paying ProCirrus to host my environment, and then maybe I've got you know, my accounting system or some other software vendor that I'm also paying. So I've got multiple layers of cost just to have that service. So let's talk about the third option there, which is SaaS. The SaaS is, you know, and by definition, you know, my SaaS is a true multi-tenant environment, which means that the vendor creates a single document management service, and then that's shared across all users. Each user is basically segregated into their own singular environment inside that service. My favorite quote from SaaS is "one puppy to love." That means a software vendor that creates a SaaS solution only has one product to update or upgrade. So it's easy to get that product lots of love. That means that there's minimal local IT support because it's usually delivered to you via a browser. And there's platform independence, you know, run it on Safari, run it on Chrome, doesn't matter what device you're really running it from, run it from your phone. The cons here is obviously the internet dependency. You know, when you use when you don't have internet access, you don't have access to your SaaS. You know, I know that infrastructure as a service and SaaS do get around this a little bit with local file sync or caching. So there is some way around that for short-term outages. Updates to the product are on the vendor's schedule, not on yours. Not much you can do about that. And vendor outage, you know, if the vendor goes down, are you out of work or temporarily or long-term, one of the two. So that's our little SaaS overview. So considerations for cloud DMS. I'm just going to swing through these. These are pretty well-known points. But when you're looking at a cloud document management system and you have a legal obligation to protect your data in that cloud system, you need to understand these following principles. Is it encrypted? The data, the documents need to be encrypted both in transit and at rest. Okay, so it needs to be delivered to you from its secure location in a manner that no one else can interact with. You know, there's a lot of certifications and protocols here that guard this. We basically call it tamper-proof encryption. So ask that of your vendors. The provider of your service should have no ownership to your data. They should not be subpoenable to be able to access the data whatsoever. So, if I'm hosting my data at ABC IT Technology server farm, I want to make sure that their administrators aren't able to go in and actually see my client data. So understand that ownership. The security model of the cloud solution you have should encompass ongoing certifications. It should have a sort of a global vision. If you're working with clients that have multinational clients, there might be GDPR requirements that their data cannot be stored in the US vault, for instance. So there should be some sort of global vision there if you're working with those sorts of clients. Your vendor should be active monitoring for trends, denial of service intrusions, physical data center incursions. That all needs to be things that you vet out before you sign your data away there. And then, of course, redundancy, multi-layered backups with no single point of failure so that you don't lose your data. This is just an example of the certifications that a SaaS vendor might bring to the table. This is actually NetDocuments. I wanted to just throw this slide up here to illustrate how hard it would be to get these certifications if you were trying to do this on your own. In the case of NetDocuments, they have an entire department that is all about receiving accreditation in all these legal industry, but also federal and financial services areas. Onboarding, when you choose a solution, you want to make sure that you data import. You don't want to start with an empty solution if possible. You want to make sure that you know who is controlling the data import. What your participation in that? Is it a do-it-yourself job? Do you hire a partner in there? Train your staff on how to use it. Make sure there's planning and design involved. And when you do planning and design, make sure there's a proof of concept, a user acceptance training element, and a pilot program, so that it's all thoroughly tested before you roll it out to your firm. And and maybe it goes south and people want to know why. Maybe you forgot to do those three things. And then the other thing is solve pain points with it. Don't move your data to the cloud without addressing whatever are currently pain points with your solution. Ask about an offboarding process. It's kind of odd, you don't go buy a car and then ask what you're going to do when you get rid of that car. But with this type of system, you want to make sure you understand, how do I get out of this system, out of my cloud DMS if necessary? Who's responsible for that work? So just asking that question. Stability. Is the platform stable? You'd hope so. Ask your peers about this. What about the company? What about the company infrastructure? Are they stable? Are they being bought and sold and acquired and what have you? Where are they going to be 2, 3, 5 years from now? Technical requirements and bandwidth, speeds of their indexing, they're things that you can ask your vendors as well. Transparency of service. Here's a little slide here that shows you transparency of service. This should be what you see in a cloud solution. On the left, NetDocuments is publishing every second what their availability is, response times. On the right is Facebook. You get the idea that a good cloud solution should be transparent in what they're offering and their performance, and logging incidents and making those incidents available to everybody. Make sure you understand any hidden costs, storage capacity limits, licensing bundles, growth potential. Maybe when you jump from 10 to 20 users, there's a big price jump from 20 to 40. Understand that ahead of time. Negotiate a contract that deals with that. Make sure that your provider is responsible. They've got technical support. Again, that transparency when they have issues. Do you get a sales or account manager? Small firms might struggle with this. You might want to lean on a partner rather than the vendor to do that. Does your provider have legal awareness or focus? I don't want to get into a discussion with a vendor that they don't even understand the obligations I have with client data. I want somebody that understands my pain. And then I'm going to finish up here with a couple of slides here that just give you an example of the solutions that we've typically been working recently with. This is a multi-cloud SaaS solution, and this is popular. And I wanted to point out that a RightScale survey from this year, from a couple of months ago, found that 81% of businesses around the world are using multiple cloud solutions for their document storage. Now, that's pretty easy and the bar's low when you use Office 365, your emails and stuff are, being stored in the cloud as it is. So, but that's 81% of enterprises using, multiple layers of cloud to solve their document storage. And in this example, I have a firm that's using NetDocuments as their primary document storage cloud. They're using SharePoint as their archive or e-discovery cloud. The two systems are linked together. And then over on another cloud with integration, they have their existing accounting system. And then lastly, example 2 is an infrastructure as a service environment where we're using a ProCirrus in this case as a hosted infrastructure service. ProCirrus is then giving us access to our cloud-based document management store. In this case, NetDocuments, could be iManaged, WorldDocs. And then off to the right there, we see the other cloud services being used, Office 365 and their accounting system. But ProCirrus is the single throat to choke, if you like, that is hosting that infrastructure. Final slide here, just capping off planning for your cloud. When we're talking about going to a cloud, I want to understand what my 5-year tech plan is. What do I want my firm to look like in 5 years from a technology standpoint? Do I want to have local server infrastructure still? Okay, then I'd plan about doing some sort of hybrid on-prem cloud solution. If I don't, then where do I want to be? Do I want to be pure SaaS? Do I want to be hybrid infrastructure as a service? Can I leverage file sharing services? So understand your 5-year plan. If you don't have one, you should have one. There's plenty of plan templates out there. Form a committee, get involved with your IT team, or hire a legal consulting firm. Have your 5-year plan together, and then walk out of it with the idea of avoiding disparate data silos. Too many moving parts can be too hard to coordinate and juggle. And I was going to say, a simple structured solution can be easily taught to your staff and easily followed by your staff. So don't have too many places for people to put data. Consolidate that. And finally, consider all parts of your business, front and back office. Don't think just about your legal documents. Think about your accounting or administrative type documents as well. They're just as important. And with that, I will turn back over to Danielle.
Thanks, Greg. That was fantastic information. Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you were intrigued by this and you want to learn more about anything that Greg was talking about, I encourage you to take advantage of our free 30-minute DMS consultation. Just reply to the follow-up email that's going to be coming to you shortly from Karen, and she'll take care of you. We do have more DMS-focused sessions coming up in January and throughout the rest of 2021. You can see all of them by visiting affinityconsulting.com/webinars. I just want to give you guys a heads up. We're moving to Zoom in 2021, so I hope you all come back and see the changes after the first of the year. Please do share your feedback with us on the survey that follows. I hope you'll join us again soon. Happy holidays.